Well, the clocks spring forward for daylight saving time this weekend, meaning we lose that hour of sleep going into Sunday morning. But there are ways to offset the sleepiness we all inevitably feel in the days after. Our Dr. Frank McGeorge joins us with more on that, whether a viral Sleepy Girl mocktail can help and why Detroit's location puts us at a disadvantage when it comes to sleep.
Hey, thanks. I'm joined by Dr. Philip Cheng. He is a sleep researcher at Henry Ford Health and a sleep psychologist. So, Dr. Cheng, thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Thank you for having me.
So, let's start out with the Sleepy Girl mocktail. What in the world is that all about and what's in it?
Yeah, so it's a new trend going around on the internet, and it's supposed to be a combination of tart cherry juice and magnesium. Sometimes they add a little other stuff in there, maybe some uh, sugar or something, and it's supposed to be helpful for sleep. Keyword being supposed.
Right. Okay. So, I guess uh, to back up, how is this supposed to work? And maybe what's your opinion? Does it really work or might it work?
Yeah, so I think the rationale is that magnesium has a reputation for helping people sleep and also calm down. And tart cherry juice is supposed to be a natural source of melatonin, which of course is a hormone that regulates sleep and wake cycles. There's also some idea about tryptophan being in there. And so a lot of folks think, well, a little bit of both might help, and it certainly can it looks pretty. It's red, and people put some sparkling water in there, and then now it looks fancy. So yeah, I definitely get the appeal of it.
Right.
My opinion would be that it is a nice idea, but it is not something we should rely on if we really have a sleep problem or challenge or disorder that we need serious help with.
And I guess to go one step further, magnesium, it's a specific type of magnesium, I assume, in this case, right?
Yes, so they are referring specifically to magnesium glycinate. So that's an important factor to remember.
Yeah, because magnesium comes in different forms. And for example, we use in the ER mag citrate as a laxative. So I don't know if how much laxative effect magnesium glycinate has, but I think taking a laxative right before you go to bed probably would not be a genius move.
Yeah.
So it's very specific to magnesium glycinate. I guess physiologically, I get like, what is the proposed mechanism for how magnesium might be either sleep enhancing or sleep inducing?
Yeah, I think that the idea is that magnesium glycinate might play a role in reducing nervous system activation. So it may play have a down regulation of the nervous system and therefore may ease anxiety. Um,
Okay.
and certainly if you're anxious, being less anxious can help you fall asleep.
Yeah, I think that makes some sense. Now, acknowledging that tart cherry is supposed to have a little bit of natural melatonin in it, what are your thoughts regarding magnesium glycinate versus actually just taking melatonin?
Yeah, this is a great question. I would say that if you have a headache, you could maybe take some ginger, right? Because
Oh,
there's some ideas that ginger has some analgesic effects. But if you really have a headache, you're probably reaching for a Tylenol or a ibuprofen. No one with a raging migraine is really relying on ginger. At least I would say that's not what we would recommend. So same thing here, right? In tart cherry juice, there is a little bit of a melatonin substance in there, and it's possible that if you take enough of it, that you might see a small increase. But overwhelmingly, the evidence of eating foods with melatonin is not an effective way to meaningfully increase the signal into your body to really help you sleep, especially if you are having lots of trouble sleeping and you want to have a real impact on the timing of your sleep.
And sleep experts like yourself take melatonin very seriously. I mean, at one time it was like an herbal remedy, but now it's not really that way. It's really more of a very clear medicine.
Yes, it is. It is a very powerful tool that is more specifically on the timing of your sleep as opposed to helping you fall asleep. So that's an important caveat that I always tell people about. So when I use melatonin, it's because I'm traveling across time zones, as opposed to when I'm having trouble sleeping.
Yeah. So, as far as I guess your final thought or big thought about the Sleepy Girl mocktail, plus minus works, maybe not so much. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I would say if it makes you happy, it's part of your routine. There's no harm in taking some of this sleepy mocktail. So have at it, live your life, enjoy it. But if you have a sleep disorder, if you think you have insomnia or your sleep is really bothering you, I would really recommend that you reach for something that is more clinically recommended, a therapeutic of some kind.
Yeah, and sleep hygiene and all of the usual sleep behavior practices I think are super important. One other thing I want to throw in about magnesium as well, actually, there are some reasons to not take magnesium. So if you have kidney disease, for example, magnesium will build up in your body. So it's actually there are some reasons to maybe talk to your doctor, or perhaps be a little bit more thoughtful about your magnesium intake. But I guess at the end of the day, you're saying kind of no harm, try it if you want, but it may or may not do anything for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so now obviously the other timely thing is that we are coming up on springing forward. So daylight saving time is upon us. And I gather you have some, I guess, professional ways to help ease the transition into that spring forward.
Absolutely. Yes. So as we're moving through this spring forward, I would recommend that you be diligent and prepare ahead of time. Uh, what typically happens when we're not paying attention is the time change suddenly happens, and all of a sudden our bodies are quickly jolted out of sync.
Yeah.
So if you are able to prepare, I would say start getting light um, during the day. Make sure that you are getting lots of sleep, and adjusting yourself, accounting for that time difference beforehand.
Yeah, I find getting light and using light to adjust my rhythms early on after the time change is especially important. If you have not basically preempted it by going to sleep a little bit earlier and doing some other more, I guess, physiologic things. One other thing that I wanted to ask you about, Detroit is on the westernmost side of the Eastern time zone, so the sunrise and sunset are actually different for us than for New York, for example. How does that impact it? Just our geography. How does that work against us in terms of the applicability of daylight versus standard time?
Yeah, so let's say our wake time, we've got two people, one Joe in New York and Sam in Detroit, and both Joe and Sam have a 6 a.m. wake time. Now, the sun is going to rise earlier in New York.
Hmm.
So the sun is going to help Joe wake up at 6, whereas Sam in Detroit, Sam's got the short end of the stick. It's still dark,
Yeah.
potentially, at 6 a.m. And so there's a greater fight that needs to happen in order for Sam and Joe to wake up at the same time. So that's the misalignment between clock time and our sun time.
Yeah, fascinating. And it's a fascinating question, how much we're disadvantaged. But I gather, based on the science, there is a little bit of a disadvantage to being on the westernmost side of a time zone.
Yeah, so there's been evidence that in cities or in places that are like in Detroit on the west end of a time zone, there's a higher prevalence of people saying that they are a night owl and they have trouble waking up in the morning. So it certainly is a real phenomenon.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your insight. Any other thoughts before I let you go?
Just that sleep is going to help us all live better lives. It'll help us thrive. So as much as you can, please prioritize your sleep, and good luck with the transition.
Thank you so much, Dr. Philip Cheng, Henry Ford Health sleep psychologist and researcher. Thanks again for joining me.
Thanks for having me. Take care.